We are in my office. It's in Anklamer Straße. It's based in Weiberwirtschaft, which is a place where only women entrepreneurs work. And we found that place together with two colleagues in 2012. And we wanted to find a place where we can work together and maybe also exchange our work. It's very different. Of course, I get these emails of artists who have a piece and think they have to distribute it in Berlin and Germany, and if I can help them distribute their work. So this doesn't really interest me so much, and I realized, and maybe this also connects me with Alex or Silke, or why we found this office at some point together, that we work very closely with the people we work with the artists we work with. And I would say that's always my base starting to work with. I want to be part of the process, and I want to be also seen by the artist, not as a service assistant or whatsoever. So, but I'm also like the performer, like the musician, or like I'm part of the production or the way they go in their work. So I expect a kind of the same level of commitment also. Or I also help a lot of people with questions for application whatsoever. Well, maybe at a certain level in your career, or when you get a certain amount of money also, then I think it's quite helpful. I don't feel everyone should have a production manager or producer, but at a certain point I think it's just a lot of work also, you know, to deal with all this kind of obligations, which keeps you away from the artistic work also. So, but I would always say try it for yourself also to see how it works, because that helps a lot actually in the working together with artists if they've done it themselves once. Of course it would make my life much more easy if I would not have to stick to certain funding regulations and accounting things or tax things whatsoever. I have the feeling it got more regulated actually, but maybe also I have a different attitude now. When I started, I was super naive. I just jumped in and learned it by doing, and I probably made a lot of mistakes, and now I just know things better. And maybe also things I do not want to know, I know, and which I have to consider in my work. So what maybe changed is that things got more also in the scene, or in the dance scene in Berlin. You have all these kind of places where you can get advice for free, and which is great. I mean, all this like Tanzraum Berlin, or now PAP, so artists and producers can go and ask for legal advice, administrative advice. Maybe now that everyone knows what to do and is legally correct, it got more complex. It was complex before, but you just didn't maybe know about it so much, or it was more of an open, playful field. And now, and I can also see that artists are who start, they're super afraid of this bureaucracy and just don't dare to even. Yeah. I mean, we all live off public money. We have to admit that, no? And of course, this money is dedicated to very specific thing, and it's given out under very specific conditions. So we cannot go beyond these conditions. It's state money. So, and here are the regulations. I have the feeling that the Kultursenatsverwaltung is doing their best with their people to go creatively around it. They are quite helpful with that also, but or try to support in any way they could, but still they have their regulations and they cannot really go somewhere else. This is something maybe which changed, or I also realized changed a bit, that through time, or this institution got also very professional. Maybe they started with a bit of a same, no, not naivety, but like, you know, we work with artists kind of. For example, when I look in Sophien's Säle, I mean, it's still a super place for artists to, I mean, they offer things, but they have all these papers now, how things should, like how the public relation works, like how, you know, all these lines, and how the artistic production, what you have to hand in at a certain moment, blah blah blah, what technical conditions you have, blah blah blah. And it got so regulated that you sometimes do not, you have not the feeling that you can like freely work. And also that's my position, I feel, to negotiate this before the artist has to negotiate this. But you're always, of course, you kind of also rely on the institution, and I feel myself a bit in this in-between position to make it, like, make the conditions good for the production, but also acknowledge the way of working of the institution. But it's a negotiation all the time, and I also feel that maybe it's not so much flexible anymore with also this kind what you were describing.
Can you imagine why? I mean, what is the need of an institution to be so strict?
It makes work a bit more easier, not so complicated. You know, you go out of you go into other discussions. But for example, for the graphic design, it's so much easier to work just with one name under the line. You know, they have their standards.
As you see, all of a sudden, what this produces that politics is ruled by simply habits, or how to make a job easier. And this is highly sad and problematic. That at the end, the answer to a political problem is actually a practical answer. Because we don't have enough space in the flyer and all these things. But it is sad, I guess, no?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, on the one hand, I can understand that when you do this job like every day, and you have like 10 different productions you have to present and prepare and to organize, of course you're happy if you have a standardized form where everyone fills in the same things, and then you can discuss the same things. But it does not help the artistic, or it's a bit contradictory, definitely. I'm moving, I think, in a very small scene in Berlin. I think it's much bigger. In my profession, it's a lot about networking and networks, which I kind of see also a bit critical. Like, I mean, in the best sense of the word, it's nice to have a net and to work in a kind of a net together. But it's a bit overused in the economic term, and also in this scene, it's very used. Like now, since a couple of years, we have this Branchentreffen, which in my sense is like this marketplace, you know, where you have to network and where you have to meet, and the artist should go and meet the important people. Or it's all super like important that there is a lobby and it grows, and you create this kind of a strong background, and also to have the capacity to face politicians in a different way when you are a big group. So for that, it's definitely good. In Berlin, I have the feeling, on the one hand side, the scene is growing but very diverse, and at the same time, it's kind of a bit narrowing down, like who has access to certain institutions, who can perform and show work in Berlin. This got maybe a bit also maybe more conformist, I don't know. But then again, there are many different, which I also did not discover so far, many places where artists organize themselves much more. I'm probably very stick to a specific scene because I work mostly with artists who are supported because they need a producer, they have the money to also pay me. So of course I'm more connected to maybe the institutions, the houses here, but that's only a small part of the scene, I have the feeling. It's an interesting thought. if that could like influence also, if that has a different political, could have a difficult political intention also how you work or how you deal with the work. I haven't really thought about that so much. I mean, usually what I feel the people work in production are very political, much more than the artists very often are. They go to all these meetings with the politicians. They are members of LAFT or they are members of the ZDB. I see more producers or managers in these meetings than I see artists in, so it should be their kind of a network or their kind of a support group. Okay, that's the time schedule of Tanznacht with very different information for everyone involved, so everyone knows what to do, and that's my yearly plan. With the production, residency, shows,
and Urlaub,
and my holiday, yes.
What happens when none of these artists get funding? What happens with you?
I mean, yeah, that's a big problem. More for the artist than for me actually, because I get quite a lot of mails with people asking me to be production manager for a production. So if someone gets funding and they're still looking for a production manager, then yeah, I get many of these mails. So I could probably make my living over that year with like just production manager for another artist.
I mean, in your position, there are not so many people that can do what you do, or at least, I mean, if you can always find a job, that is a good signal, no? That.
Yeah, I have the feeling, since I'm quite okay with my position, I'm happy to work the way I am, and I'm quite lucky to.
And do you think that with the years, more and more people want to do your job?
Actually, that's a big problem. I see, and that's also a development I would like to, for the future, to change a bit. People start in this job, but they very quickly like move to fixed jobs. Like they start as a freelance producer, production manager, and they end up in Hau in production or in Sophiensäle, or you know, they kind of have the feeling to yeah.
You think because there is no tolerance to uncertainty?
Maybe, yeah. And it's also not, I mean, not everyone likes to have this kind of responsibility also. It is a bit of a responsibility also. I mean, I'm taking care of the budget of these people. And it's also quite some money you take care of, and you have the responsibility together with the artist. So maybe not everyone can stand this.